What's up, guys? Today I'm going to talk about something important for instructors to keep in mind, or people that are looking to become instructors to keep in mind to make sure that you don't fall into this trap and eventually lose out to your competition. The most important thing for instructors to do is to make sure that they're constantly improving, not only in their skill sets for whatever martial art that they may be learning, teaching, etc., but also in their teaching ability. Not only do you have to get better as a martial artist, you have to get better at teaching your martial art to others if you're in an instructor position. Because if you're not doing that, you're going to be left behind by your competitors that are. Even if you are currently above your competition, your other instructors that are in your area in terms of your teaching ability, if you stagnate and you don't continue to add skill sets and improve, not only in your martial art, but also in how you teach it, how you convey concepts, how you convey strategy, how you convey moves, then eventually your competition is going to catch up, and if you continue to stagnate, they will surpass you, okay? Just because you're on top now does not mean you will remain on top. So therefore, you need to constantly be looking on ways to improve, okay? Not only that, you have to lead from the front as well. So if your students are expected to do certain things in class, you either need to do it yourself as well occasionally, or articulate that back when you were competing or back when you were in their position, you had to do those things, right? I wouldn't make my students do something that I as a student would not do, right? So if I expect my competition team to roll for 30 minutes one day, I should also occasionally roll for 30 minutes, and I do. I don't train at my current school very often because I generally only have white and blue belts. So when I do train, it's, 1, 2, 3 rounds usually. But when I go on the weekends out to other schools and train with higher level competition, occasionally I roll 45 minutes, an hour long. I roll for a long period of time. So when I tell my students to do that, I'm not being a hypocrite. I do those things as well. Or should I be past my competition stage, right? I'm 28, so I'm still pretty active. I'm still able to do things that I was able to do when I first started. But, if you're someone in their 40s, 50s, etc., and you can't do the things that you did when you were in your prime, competitive state, at the very least, you can say, look, if I were to go back and do those things again, these are the things that I would do. And it's important to articulate to your students not just what they need to do to improve, but why you are telling them to do those things. They need to understand your process because eventually your students will become good enough to perhaps become assistant coaches. Eventually they'll become good enough to become coaches in and of their own right. And maybe eventually some of those, very few, but some of those may want to open up their own schools. So it's to your advantage if you want to grow your network and increase the ability of your students to run successful programs or at least run classes successfully. You want to articulate why you're doing the things that you do as an instructor, as a school owner, and the importance behind them so that they will understand that when they go to open schools, it's not just enough to do those things. You need to also explain and articulate why you do those things so that people understand. So that way, when they're ready to teach, they'll be good to go. So, this is why generational knowledge is sometimes lost. So, if a father did something to become successful, they can't solely lead by example for their child because they will be, their child will probably be in a different position. If their father came up from poverty, for instance, or their mother, either one, if they both came up from poverty and they eventually became successful, if they don't articulate what they had to do to get there to their children who are now growing up with more luxuries may not appreciate it, may not understand the hard work that came into building the systems that allow them to live the lives that they live. So you need to find a way to articulate what skills and what drives enabled you to become successful so that they also achieve that same level of success, and not only achieve that same level of success, but so that your children can teach their children exactly what it took to become successful. So again, if you want to keep generational knowledge going, you need to pass along not just the information, but the reasons for why you're passing along the information and how they should pass on that information once they get to a leadership role. So video mainly for instructors, guys, but even if you're just a student and you're never interested in coaching, I still think it's beneficial for you to understand what it takes to be a good instructor and eventually be able to pass on those skills yourself. Because even if you don't teach a class, even if you never run a program, just by being a higher rank in the room, you can set a good example for everybody else, and it's good for you to know these skills as well. So if you have an instructor friend out there or someone who's looking to become an instructor, share this video with them, spread this knowledge to them. Maybe this will help them in their future endeavors. Make sure you smash that thumbs up button if you like the video. All these things really help us, guys. Also, make sure you're subscribed to the channel if you're new. Click that notification bell if you haven't already. That way you get notified every time we have a new video. Also, make sure you guys check out the Rumble channel if you haven't already. Thanks a lot. I'll see you guys next time.